We all want success. We all dream of a better future, but at some point we have to face a decision, a moment of truth that defines whether we move forward or fall behind. That decision boils down to this: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Choose now. Discipline and regret both hurt, but only one leads to growth. Only one opens doors, builds character, and shapes a meaningful life. Discipline means waking up early, showing up when you don't feel like it, saying no to temptations, and staying committed to long-term goals. It's not glamorous and it's rarely easy, but every drop of sweat is an investment in your future. On the other hand, regret is the sting of knowing you could have done more. It's the weight of lost opportunities, missed chances, and time you can never get back. Regret doesn't just hurt, it lingers. It echoes in your mind and heart, reminding you of the choices you didn't make. So today, ask yourself, which pain are you willing to endure? You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to decide. Your goals, your dreams, your future, they're all waiting, and the choice is yours. Discipline is often misunderstood. Many people associate it solely with restriction, discomfort, or even punishment. But true discipline is not about deprivation. It's about direction. It's the focused energy and effort we apply today to shape the life we want tomorrow. It's a temporary discomfort that yields permanent growth. While it may feel like a burden in the moment, discipline is actually a gift we give to our future selves. It's a conscious decision to choose what's best over what's easy, and in that decision lies the foundation of success. The pain of discipline comes in many forms. It's waking up early when your body craves more sleep. It's choosing a salad when your mind screams for fast food. It's hitting the gym when the couch is calling your name. It's turning off distractions and studying, practicing, or working when you'd rather scroll, binge, or relax. These actions are rarely comfortable, but they are meaningful. Each act of discipline is a small battle between the present you and the future you. And every time you choose discipline, you're choosing long-term gain over short-term pleasure. Most people want results without the effort. We dream of success but dread the grind. But the truth is, nothing worth having comes without a price. Discipline is that price. It's the currency we pay daily for the future we desire. And although the cost may seem high now, it's far cheaper than the emotional debt regret brings. When we reframe discipline as an investment instead of a punishment, we begin to see its value, not just in what it helps us achieve, but in who it helps us become. Consider any area of life: health, relationships, career, or personal growth. The people who excel aren't necessarily more talented, more intelligent, or luckier. They are simply more disciplined. They've chosen to show up consistently, to do the hard things when no one's watching, and to push through resistance. Their results are not a product of magic. They are the product of small, disciplined decisions repeated day after day. Over time, discipline becomes a habit, and what once felt painful becomes a part of who you are. The key to understanding discipline's temporary nature is recognizing that the pain doesn't last forever. The soreness fades, the fatigue passes, the cravings weaken, but the benefits, those stick. The strength you gain, the skills you sharpen, the progress you make, these stay with you. And over time, as the fruits of your labor begin to grow, you start to feel a shift. What was once a struggle becomes second nature. You stop resisting the discipline and start appreciating it. You begin to see discipline not as a hurdle, but as a tool, your most powerful ally in the pursuit of greatness. Discipline also teaches patience and humility. In a world obsessed with instant gratification, choosing to delay pleasure in favor of progress is a radical act. It reminds you that growth takes time and that true success is earned, not handed out. It grounds you in process over outcome, in effort over entitlement, and that mindset alone is transformative. The pain of discipline becomes a daily lesson in resilience, self-respect, and inner strength. It builds not just results, but character. When we understand that discipline is temporary, we learn to embrace it instead of fear it. We stop looking for shortcuts and start respecting the journey, and in that shift, something powerful happens. We take ownership of our lives. We no longer wait for motivation or depend on luck. We become the architects of our future, brick by brick, habit by habit, and the more we invest in discipline, the more confidence we build, not because things get easier, but because we get stronger. Ultimately, discipline is proof that we believe in ourselves. It's the daily act of saying, my future is worth the effort. It's short-term sacrifice for long-term satisfaction. It's temporary pain that produces permanent reward. The soreness of hard work fades, the struggle of self-control passes, but the growth, the freedom, the self-respect you earn, that lasts. So when the pain of discipline hits, don't run from it, lean into it. Because on the other side of that pain is a version of you that you'll be proud to meet. Regret is one of the most haunting emotions a person can experience. It doesn't arrive with noise or ceremony, but it stays longer than almost any other feeling. It sits quietly in the back of your mind, whispering, what if, and if only I had, long after the opportunity to act has passed. Unlike the temporary discomfort of discipline, regret lingers because it's tied to something more painful, the realization that you had the chance, and you didn't take it. It's not the failure that hurts most, but the inaction that let the moment slip away. What makes regret so powerful is that it often comes too late. You don't always recognize the importance of a decision until it's behind you. You may think skipping one day of effort or ignoring one chance doesn't matter much, until you see the consequences accumulate. Days become weeks, weeks become years, and suddenly you're looking back, not at a series of bad decisions, but at all the decisions you didn't make, and those missed chances, whether they were to grow, to change, to speak, or to act, become the landmarks of regret in your memory. People often fear failure, but what they should fear more is doing nothing at all. Failure at least teaches you something. It means you tried, you dared, you were in the arena. But inaction leaves you with nothing but uncertainty and doubt. Regret thrives in silence and hesitation. It doesn't come from giving your all and falling short. It comes from never trying. That's why it has such a lasting sting. It represents not just a lost result, but a lost possibility. And possibilities, once gone, cannot always be recovered. Regret can impact every area of life: career, relationships, health, education. Think of the job you didn't apply for because you were afraid you weren't qualified. The person you didn't express your feelings to because you feared rejection. The workout or routine you kept postponing until your health began to suffer. These aren't just missed chances. They're turning points. And once you've passed them, you don't just lose the moment. You lose the potential life that might have followed it. That's why regret is so heavy. It holds not just pain, but lost futures. Unlike discipline, which brings pain in the present but rewards later, regret is the opposite. It gives comfort in the moment. You choose rest, escape, or ease. But that comfort is short-lived. What follows is often long-term dissatisfaction. You realize you didn't stretch yourself. You played it safe, and in doing so, you stayed small. That's the irony of regret. It doesn't feel like pain at first. It disguises itself in convenience, but when it finally reveals itself, the impact is deep and lasting. Regret also has a way of distorting your self-image. Over time, you begin to question not just your choices, but your capability. You might think, if I had just pushed harder, where would I be now? This internal dialogue slowly chips away at your confidence. You may even develop a fear of taking action in the future because regret creates a mental loop, one that reinforces hesitation and doubt. In this way, regret doesn't just reflect the past, it infects your future by weakening your belief in your ability to change. Perhaps the most painful part of regret is that it's almost always preventable. It's rarely the result of something we couldn't control. More often, it stems from decisions we could have made, habits we could have formed, people we could have reached out to, dreams we could have chased. We don't regret the storms that hit us. We regret not preparing, not reacting, not being brave enough to take shelter, or set sail when the skies were clear. Regret reminds us that we were not powerless. We simply chose not to use our power. While discipline asks something of you today, regret demands nothing in the moment. That's why it's so seductive. It lets you off the hook for now, but the hook always comes back, and when it does, it goes deeper. Regret doesn't hurt all at once, it builds. It grows with age, with time, with reflection. One day you'll look back at your life and realize that some of the most painful chapters are not the ones where you failed, but the ones where you stood still. And in those silent pages, the pain of inaction will speak the loudest. Every day, whether we acknowledge it or not, we are faced with choices. Some are big and obvious, like whether to change careers or commit to a relationship. Others are small and easily overlooked. Whether to wake up early or hit snooze, whether to eat a healthy meal or indulge in junk food, whether to focus on your goals or give in to distractions. But what we often forget is that every single one of these choices carries a consequence, whether immediate or delayed. Life is not random, it is the result of compounded decisions, each one carving the path we're walking. What's most striking is how easily we underestimate the power of seemingly minor decisions. Skipping one workout may not change your body, but skipping it every day for a month will. Procrastinating on one assignment may not affect your academic career, but chronic procrastination shapes your habits, and your habits shape your outcomes. Each choice is like a vote for the person you're becoming. You are either casting votes for the version of yourself that's disciplined, focused, and purposeful, or for the version that settles, avoids, and regrets. We often imagine consequences as something that happened to us, as if we are victims of fate. But in reality, consequences are the natural result of choices we made, whether actively or passively. Choosing not to act is still a choice, and it carries its own weight. If you choose to ignore your health, the consequence may not come tomorrow, but it will come. If you choose to neglect your relationships, the distance will grow. If you ignore your goals, your potential will remain untapped. The longer the delay, the more compounded the consequence. This principle applies not just to actions, but also to mindsets. Choosing to hold on to bitterness instead of forgiving, choosing to be cynical instead of hopeful, choosing comfort over challenge, all of these internal decisions have external results. They affect how you show up in the world, how you treat others, how others perceive you, and ultimately what opportunities you attract or repel. Your internal world drives your external life, and your choices in thought and emotion ripple outward just as powerfully as your physical actions. It's important to realize that not all consequences are negative. Just as poor choices lead to struggle, wise choices lead to growth and reward. The decision to study instead of party, to practice instead of slack, to work instead of whine, those choices may cost you comfort in the short term, but they will deliver results that build confidence, capability, and freedom. The right choices often feel hard in the moment, but liberating in the long run. And the beauty of consequences is that they are predictable. What you sow, you will eventually reap. This reality is empowering because it means you're never truly stuck. You might not be where you want to be right now, but your next choice can start changing that. The direction of your life is not controlled by luck, background, or other people. It's controlled by your decisions. One powerful choice today can undo 100 careless ones from yesterday, but that process starts with awareness, the recognition that your current circumstances are, to a large extent, a reflection of your past choices, and your future will be shaped by what you choose going forward. Some consequences are immediate and visible, but many are subtle and delayed. This delay often fools people into thinking their choices don't matter, but time is always keeping score. You might not see the effects of your choices today, tomorrow, or even this year, but rest assured the bill will arrive. That's why discipline, awareness, and integrity matter so deeply. You're not just choosing for this moment, you're choosing for your future self, for your future relationships, for the life you're building day by day, brick by brick. So when you face a decision, no matter how small it may seem, pause and consider the consequence. Ask yourself, will this move me closer to who I want to be, or further away? Will this choice lead to pride or to regret? In that moment of pause, you reclaim your power. You remind yourself that your life isn't defined by fate or circumstance, but by the cumulative power of conscious choices. And the more intentional you become, the more control you gain over the direction and depth of your life. At its core, discipline is not about feeling inspired, motivated, or emotionally ready. It's about commitment. It's the quiet, often unseen decision to act in alignment with your values and goals, regardless of your mood. The truth is, if we only acted when we felt like it, very little would get done. Feelings are fleeting. They change with the weather, with sleep, with stress, but discipline steps in when feelings step out. It says, I made a promise to myself, and I intend to keep it. That is the essence of true growth and success. Discipline is what bridges the gap between intention and execution. Anyone can make a plan. Anyone can set goals, write resolutions, and dream of a better future. But the real test begins when the alarm clock rings at 5 a.m., when your body is tired, your mind is scattered, or when distractions tempt you to turn away. It's in those moments that discipline proves its worth, not because it makes things easier, but because it keeps you moving when ease and comfort are pulling you in the opposite direction. The world often glorifies motivation, painting it as the secret fuel behind every high achiever. But motivation is unreliable. It comes in waves, often sparked by emotion, excitement, or external inspiration. While it may ignite your journey, it cannot sustain it. What sustains progress is the ability to move forward when the spark fades, when you feel bored, discouraged, or frustrated. Discipline is the mechanism that keeps the wheels turning in the absence of motivation. It is the engine, not the flame. What separates disciplined individuals from the rest is not that they enjoy the hard parts, it's that they do them anyway. They go to the gym when they don't want to. They study when they'd rather scroll. They write when the words don't flow. They practice when no one's watching. It's not about loving every step, it's about understanding that every step matters. Over time, that consistency compounds. The results may be invisible at first, but each act of discipline builds momentum and reinforces identity. I am someone who shows up, no matter what. Discipline is also deeply tied to integrity. When you do what needs to be done, even when it's inconvenient, you're not just following a routine, you're keeping a promise to yourself, and with every kept promise, you build trust in yourself. That internal trust becomes the foundation for confidence. You no longer need to rely on external validation or quick rewards because you know who you are. You've proven it through your actions. That's a powerful kind of self-respect that can't be faked or forced. It's earned through daily follow-through. Another important aspect of discipline is its ability to cut through excuses. We all have reasons to avoid the hard thing: too tired, too busy, too overwhelmed. But discipline doesn't argue with excuses. It overrules them. It says, yes, you're tired, do it anyway. Yes, it's difficult, do it anyway. In doing so, it teaches resilience. You begin to see that you are not ruled by your circumstances. You can act in spite of them. This shift in mindset is crucial. It turns victims of circumstance into creators of change. Perhaps one of the most overlooked qualities of discipline is that it creates freedom. It may seem counterintuitive. How can doing what you don't want to do make you feel free? But think about it. Discipline in your finances brings financial freedom. Discipline in your health brings physical freedom. Discipline in your work brings creative freedom. The very things you force yourself to do now create the conditions that allow you to live life on your terms later. That is the quiet reward discipline offers, not just achievement, but autonomy. Finally, discipline redefines your relationship with effort. What once felt like a burden begins to feel like a normal part of life. You stop negotiating with yourself, stop needing to be in the mood, and start simply doing what's necessary. You become reliable both to yourself and to others, and that reliability is rare in a world full of distractions and shortcuts. The disciplined person doesn't rise above others because they're better. They rise because they consistently do the things most people avoid, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. Regret often disguises itself as a friend in the moment. It arrives cloaked in comfort, ease, and pleasure. It tells you, just this once won't hurt, or you deserve to relax, to escape, to indulge. And so we give in, we skip the workout, we binge the show. We spend impulsively, we lash out instead of thinking things through. At the time it feels good, sometimes even great, but that moment of satisfaction is fleeting. What follows is a bitter aftertaste, one that lingers much longer than the brief comfort it came with. There is a painful irony in the fact that regret is often born from the things that once brought us joy. That extra hour of sleep, that spontaneous spending spree, that shortcut we took, it all seemed harmless, even justified. But when the consequences show up, they are often out of proportion with the pleasure that preceded them. The 5 minutes of indulgence can cost us months of effort. That's what makes regret so devastating. It exposes the gap between what felt good and what was actually good for us. What's more, regret is rooted in self-awareness. The reason it stings so deeply is because we knew better. We had the knowledge, the warning signs, the voice in our head urging us to reconsider. But in that moment, we silenced it. We chose emotion over reason, impulse over intention, and now, with the clarity of hindsight, we see what we could have done differently, and it hurts, not just because of the loss itself, but because we were the ones who opened the door to it. That realization weighs heavily on the conscience. Regret teaches us that pleasure is not the same as fulfillment. The two may overlap at times, but they are not interchangeable. Pleasure is immediate and shallow. It offers relief without resolution, escape without progress. Fulfillment, on the other hand, often requires sacrifice. It asks us to delay gratification, to tolerate discomfort, to stay aligned with our deeper values. In the moment, pleasure may feel better, but over time, fulfillment is far more rewarding, and regret is the price we pay when we mistake one for the other. The emotional toll of regret is compounded by the sense of missed opportunity. We realize what we could have done, the effort we could have put in, the discipline we could have chosen, the growth we could have experienced. And the more we reflect, the more we recognize how much better things could have been if we had acted differently. This mental replay becomes a loop, a pattern of self-blame that slowly chips away at our confidence and trust in ourselves. It becomes harder to move forward when you're constantly looking backward. Regret also doesn't stay isolated to one area of life. It spreads. A poor financial decision can create stress that affects your health and relationships. A lack of discipline in your fitness can bleed into your self-image and energy. The effects are rarely contained. And over time, the accumulation of regrets can lead to a deep sense of dissatisfaction, not necessarily because life is terrible, but because you know it could have been so much more. That gap between potential and reality is often where regret lies. One of the cruel aspects of regret is its timing. You rarely feel it during the moment of poor decision making. Instead, it comes after the damage is done, when there's no easy way to undo it. That delayed consequence is what makes it dangerous. It gives you a false sense of security, a belief that there's no harm in just this once. But life doesn't work that way. Every action plants a seed, and eventually every seed grows. Whether it blossoms into pride or regret depends on what you chose to plant. Ultimately, regret is the echo of choices made for short-term comfort at the expense of long-term peace. It reminds you of the time you ignored your better judgment, and it punishes you not with immediate pain, but with slow, creeping dissatisfaction. The truth is, what feels good now can cost you later, and in those quiet, reflective moments, you'll often wish you had chosen differently. That's the nature of regret. It's not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, persistent, and heavy. It doesn't scream. It whispers, "You knew better." At first glance, discipline can seem surely mornings, late nights, repetition, discomfort, delayed gratification. It demands effort when you're tired, focus when you're distracted, and persistence when you'd rather quit. But this pain, this temporary sacrifice, is not without purpose. It's not punishment, it's preparation. Discipline is a controlled struggle that molds character. It's the weight you willingly lift today so that you can carry heavier loads tomorrow without breaking. In that sense, discipline is not just pain. It is a teacher, a builder, a transformer. The pain of discipline is sharply different from the pain of regret. While both hurt, only one leads to growth. Discipline strengthens your willpower. Each time you resist the urge to give in or take the easy route, you sharpen your inner resolve. You train yourself to act out of principle, not impulse. This type of pain is like muscle soreness after a workout. It means you're growing, stretching, becoming stronger than you were the day before. And that strength, once earned, becomes yours to carry forward for life. In many ways, discipline is a form of self-respect. It's a declaration that your future matters enough to endure discomfort today. You're not giving in to fleeting pleasure or temporary escape. You're choosing something higher, health over laziness, purpose over procrastination, truth over convenience. And although those choices hurt in the moment, they lay the foundation for inner strength and outer achievement. Discipline is the quiet vote you cast every day for the kind of life you want to live, and the kind of person you want to be. The key is understanding that the pain of discipline is temporary. It may feel overwhelming in the moment, getting up early, showing up to practice, saying no when everyone else is saying yes, but it doesn't last forever. Eventually, the hard thing becomes the normal thing. Your mind and body adapt. What once felt impossible becomes your new baseline, and with every day you push through discomfort, you raise your standard, you begin to realize that strength isn't given, it's built. And discipline is the tool that forges it. Discipline also compounds. The strength you build today isn't just for today, it makes you better equipped for tomorrow. You become more focused, more resilient, more confident. You start trusting yourself more because you've seen what you're capable of under pressure. Each small win, every early cup, every tough decision followed through, every temptation resisted, becomes part of a larger structure of success. You don't just build discipline. Discipline builds you, and over time it creates a version of yourself you never thought possible. Another important truth is that discipline builds mental toughness. The more you practice doing hard things, the less intimidating they become. You stop seeing discomfort as something to avoid and start seeing it as something to lean into. You learn to sit with frustration, to work through fatigue, to focus in chaos. And as you train your mind to stay steady in storms, you become unshakable. This kind of strength doesn't show up on a scoreboard or social media post, but it becomes your greatest asset when life throws real challenges your way. Discipline also fosters independence. It gives you the strength to choose your path without needing permission or approval. You stop relying on external motivation and start generating your own momentum. You no longer need to be inspired to act. You act because it's who you are. That level of self-direction is rare in a world that constantly promotes shortcuts and easy wins, but it is exactly what makes you powerful. You don't wait for perfect conditions. You create them, one disciplined choice at a time. Perhaps most importantly, discipline reminds you that growth never comes without resistance. Just like muscles grow by being torn and rebuilt, your character grows through struggle and persistence. The pain you feel is a sign that you're doing something worthwhile. It's a signal that you're leaving behind the old version of yourself and stepping into something greater. Discipline is not the enemy. It is the forge, and every drop of sweat, every second of discomfort, every moment of sacrifice is an investment in the strength that will carry you forward. There's something profoundly deceptive about the moment when we choose comfort over discipline. It feels harmless, almost justified. We tell ourselves it's no big deal, we'll get back on track tomorrow. But what we often fail to realize is that while the pain of discipline is sharp but fleeting, the weight of regret is dull and enduring. It creeps in slowly, often unnoticed, until one day it becomes a heavy burden we carry silently. That's the cruel reality. The pain of doing the right thing lasts minutes or hours. The pain of wishing you had can last a lifetime. Discipline demands something from you in the short term. Your time, energy, focus, and self-restraint, but its demands eventually decrease. Over time, habits form, strength increases, and resistance fades. The workout gets easier. The early mornings become routine. The focused hours turn into progress. The initial pain shrinks as discipline becomes a part of your identity. However, regret operates differently. It does not shrink. It does not become easier. It grows. It revisits you unexpectedly, in quiet moments, in missed opportunities, in memories you wish you could rewrite. One of the most painful aspects of regret is that it's tied to time you can never get back. You can't rewind the clock to redo the work you avoided, to apologize for the words you said, to practice what you neglected, or to make the decision you delayed. You are forced to live with the knowledge that you had the power to act, but didn't. And that realization lingers. It shapes how you see yourself. It steals moments of joy, replacing them with what-ifs and if-onlys. Over time, it eats away at your self-respect. Regret also has a way of resurfacing at the worst moments. It shows up when others succeed where you fell short, not because they were more talented, but because they were more consistent. It whispers in your ear when you're facing consequences you could have avoided. It appears in conversations, in milestones you missed, in chances that passed you by, and the older you get, the louder it becomes, not because the memory itself worsens, but because you better understand what you truly lost. The price of inaction becomes clearer with every passing year. Meanwhile, Discipline, for all its difficulty, pays dividends. You might suffer through early challenges, but what follows is pride, strength, and momentum. You look back not with sorrow, but with satisfaction. You remember the sacrifice, but you're grateful for it. You feel empowered, not burdened. The hardship becomes part of your story, a source of resilience, not regret. And even if discipline never guarantees success, it always guarantees dignity. You can look in the mirror knowing you gave your best. That alone is worth the temporary pain. It's easy to look at the disciplined and assume they have some natural drive that makes it easier for them. But most of them have simply learned a powerful truth. Discipline hurts now, but regret hurts forever. They've experienced both, and they've chosen the one with a shorter lifespan. They've traded minutes of discomfort for decades of peace. That trade off isn't always easy, but it is always worth it. They don't always enjoy the process, but they respect the outcome, and that mindset is what sets them apart. Regret not only lingers, it compounds. One missed opportunity leads to another. One excuse becomes a habit. One broken promise becomes a pattern. Soon, regret doesn't just visit occasionally. It moves in. It affects your confidence, your decisions, your relationships, and your ability to pursue future goals. And while it's possible to turn things around, it's far harder to rebuild after years of regret than it is to endure the brief discomfort of doing what needs to be done. The longer you wait, the heavier it gets. In contrast, discipline fades. Its sting dulls with time. The early struggles are replaced by routine. The resistance is replaced by results, and the sacrifice is replaced by satisfaction. You don't carry discipline forever. It carries you. And when you finally arrive at the destination you worked for, you realize the pain was never permanent. But regret stays with you, echoing in the silence of the dreams you never pursued and the potential you never fulfilled. That is why choosing discipline now is the most merciful thing you can do for your future self. In life, pain is not optional, but the type of pain you endure is. You will either carry the temporary, strengthening pain of discipline or the lingering, weakening pain of regret. One asks for effort now, the other demands sorrow later. One builds you, the other breaks you slowly, but make no mistake, both come with a cost. Every choice you make is a vote for the future you're creating. Every time you choose discipline, when you wake up early, say no to distractions, stay focused, or keep a promise, you invest in a life you'll be proud of. Every time you give in to comfort, procrastination, or avoidance, you're borrowing pleasure at the expense of your peace. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to get it right every time, but you do have to decide, will I suffer now and grow, or will I give in now and grieve later, because the future version of you, the one looking back on your life, will feel one of these pains. And on that day, there won't be time to redo your choices. There will only be time to reflect on them. So choose now, choose wisely. Let the pain you embrace today be the kind that makes you stronger tomorrow.